Just as I was expecting, my latest video about why the Sky Dimension is a bad idea was pretty poorly received by some, and that's what I was expecting, but that's okay, because I knew that there would be some compelling arguments that I could discuss in a follow-up video, and that's what I want to talk about today. Now, some of you will be happy to know that since I made that video, my opinion has somewhat changed. Not drastically, but there were some comments which were really compelling, and I want to talk about some of those. In fact, I'm going to talk about pretty much most of the comments that disagreed with me, and I'll talk about why I agree with them, why I disagree with them, and maybe how my opinion has changed because of those constructive comments. One more thing I want to add, some of you thought that I was just suggesting that I should just take the Aether and put it in the end. That is not what I am suggesting at all. I am just saying that any Sky feature you can try and think of that will be unique to the Sky can be tweaked and modified, and you can make it work in the end. However, some people might disagree, and let's just take a look at the comments and just see how my opinion affects that. So this comment by Mirotech Software says, the Aether mod is an extremely amazing mod and probably one of the very few mods I actually like. It will be the most beautiful addition for the Aether to be an actual part of the game, as a sort of Sky Dimension. I'm not sure that you understand how beautifully unique and amazing the Aether Dimension really is. You discuss the features as if they are cliche. They are definitely not. Okay, look, I like the Aether mod, I've played it before, but realistically, the developers will never add such a thing. I'm sorry, but they deliberately withhold content and they're just not going to add it. That's why I'm saying it's a bad idea. Adding the Aether itself isn't a terrible suggestion. However, making Mojang add a Sky Dimension is a bad idea, because Mojang's Sky Dimension will be completely different from the Sky Dimension you are imagining. So do I agree with your comment? Absolutely. But do I think that that's actually going to happen if a Sky Dimension were added? No, nothing like it. Now this comment here is good because it presented a problem and then followed up with an actual solution rather than just stating a problem, which is pretty cool. So it says, the problem with the end is that it's just too dark. Okay, now he could have just left it there, but there's a follow-up. They could, however, make it so the further you get away from the center, the lighter the sky gets. And that's an interesting suggestion, and that's why I'm making these videos, is because people offer good quality suggestions like this which can be helpful and find a middle ground to what people want. So thanks. I think Aether mod is special and adding it to the end wouldn't be fun, but I can see biomes to the nether and end. Now I can see why you took this out of the video, but I wasn't suggesting that we should just add the Aether mod and put it into the end. I was just saying that any kind of unique feature or mechanic that was in the Aether mod could be tweaked and put in the end, and it could work if the colors and the names and other aesthetic things like that were changed. Okay, we need more comments like this. This is actually a compelling argument that changed my mind about a few things. Now, I trust this guy's comment because he actually has some experience in this topic. So what brought my attention was this. We've run mods that have huge sums of content to the end, multiple biomes and cheap flight and powerful magic items. None of it actually got people to go, but when we put a Skylands generator in an older pack, it was massively popular. Now, I'm making an assumption here, but I'm assuming the Skylands dimension that you added had a lot of content. Now, if a Sky Dimension were to be added, and it has a lot of content, then I wouldn't be complaining. But realistically, the developer team is very small. The Sky Dimension that they add will be nothing like you see in the mods. It will be barren, with a couple new blocks, maybe a mob or two, and just one biome for the whole way. And then he says, the end doesn't need more content. It needs a fundamental rework from the ground up, a total refresh of its art's assets, better connections to other dimensions, or it needs to be recognized as a failed experiment and gradually phased out now that Mojang has more resources and expertise to build new content. Now, this is also a point that I agree with. I just wish it were viable. However, I'm going to come back to this because there's another comment which offers a valid solution to this, which is pretty awesome. And it's this comment again that suggests that as you go further out, that the dimension itself will start to change to suit the style of a Sky Dimension. So I've drawn a picture. So that yellow circle in the middle will be where your dragon fight is. then you'll have a black void, which is still already present, then you'll get some end outer rings, again this is all still in the game, and then when you branch out far enough, it splits up into biomes. Yes, you can still find your shulkers and your elytra out there, but there will be other biomes which can essentially make the theme of the end more malleable and add better sky content into the end instead of wasting time with a new dimension. This system here is also a valid solution to the next comment. This wonderful exploding pineapple says, I agree partially, however the reason so many people are saying Minecraft is dying now is because it's already oversaturated. Take a game like Terraria. That particular game is what I call vertical, with many stages to get throughout the game, keeping it nicely dispersed, yet with over 3,800 items. However, Minecraft is becoming a very wide game, too much stuff in a short space. And then he goes on to say that a dimension would solve this. However, I will give you this picture again. This here maintains the open world nature of Minecraft, but still has a linear progression thanks to the rings system, which I think should somehow be implemented in the Nether and the overworld, but I'm not quite sure how yet. But in the end, there's no reason for it to not work. Next comment, I think there should be a sky dimension would be a thing that should be added. It would be cool to build a base there. You wouldn't be able to do all that in the end, since all the Endermen are 2 different colors with a dark sky. Even if there are only 0 to 2 new mobs, there are cool things you could do with that. Maybe have dungeons spawn a little bit more commonly. We could have lower gravity, or maybe a new boss, or just simply find another way of doing this, like maybe change the world height to 755 blocks, and once you go up to 500 blocks, the sky islands generate. Just have a cool place that build a base, or have a sky dungeon for later game. It would just add so much for the game if we had this and it is done correctly. I am for this suggestion, but will the developers be likely to add something so fleshed out? I doubt it. The only reason why I'm saying that the sky dimension is a bad idea is because the chances are it's just going to be as barren as the current dimensions are, and we're better off just fleshing out what we have at the moment. People, if the sky dimension is as fleshed out as what you imagine it would be, then I would agree, yes, a sky dimension would be cool. But unfortunately, likely it's going to be really barren. If the devs add this, I hope they prove me wrong. I really disagree. There is a law. The end is supposed to be a void dimension. Blue slimes? Why? Birds? No. Well, again, I wasn't actually suggesting that the Aether should be added. I was just saying that any sky dimension feature you can think of can possibly work in the end. Okay, and now it says what we need to add is more content in the end. Something very different though. Now this is something I agree with. If Mojang added a sky dimension though, they wouldn't do this because they wouldn't actually be able to keep up with all the content. They'll have a new dimension to focus on as well as the Nether and the overworld. Then he says it would be more cool if you have 3 or 4 structures with side quests to activate the dragon fight. Again, I don't really see the developers adding this, but if they did, I wouldn't complain. And then adding a new dimension is not bad because you can add content with different lore, you can add new rules to it, and it adds depth. It just needs to be difficult. 2 problems, you're still left with an unfair distribution of content between the overworld, the Nether, the end, and now the sky dimension, which will be barren if the developers add it, unless they can prove me wrong, which I really doubt given the past few updates. But there's a solution. This video is total fail. Sorry, we need Thet. Now, most of the comments that I received on that video were constructive, but this comment is one of the few comments that just absolutely did nothing to my opinion whatsoever. Comments like this will never change my mind about anything. Dragon, stop being so stubborn. You can't even tell if you like the idea yet. Now listen, if the sky dimension had loads of new content and heaps of depth and if it was just well designed, then I would love it to be in the game. But we need to be realistic. The developers are not going to add anything like the Aether. If they were to add a sky dimension, as I said many times already, it would be barren. It wouldn't have as much to it as you think. And imagine the backlash, imagine the disappointment from the community when that happens. I think adding all these things to the end in the video would ruin the end completely. Okay, now Two solutions here. The first one is this chart here, and the second one, we can just tweak the ideas and just make them fit in if need be. I am in no way suggesting a direct port of Aether into the end. Dude, it would be cool, flying into the sky with the Elytra teleports you there, that's cool, what the fly. Yeah, it would be cool if the developers could keep up with adding content to 4 dimensions, but they can't do that. It would be cool at first, but then it would just become like the Nether, like the end. No one wants to be there. They just go there, get their blaze rods, get their shulker shells, and leave. Hey! Why can't there be more added to the end and Nether and still add a sky dimension with new content? It may be too complex, but maybe you could find a way to slowly pile it onto the player. Maybe they have to collect more items and things to progress. I don't see why at all both ideas can't be added. Let's just be friends here, okay? I mean, yeah, I would love for that to happen, but there are a finite amount of developers with a finite amount of time, and it's a very small development team, and not only that, but they deliberately withhold content. There's no way they'll be able to cater towards 4 dimensions. But if they do, I hope they prove me wrong, and I'll be very happy with that. In conclusion, if the developers could somehow maintain enough content to provide for 4 dimensions, I would love for a sky dimension to be added. It would be a welcome addition to the game. But given the size of their development team, and given how much they're actually willing to give to the community, adding a barren dimension is a bad idea. If they can add a full-fledged one, go for it. But I doubt that's the case. Anyways guys, I hope you can now see where I'm coming from, and I hope you can see how my opinion has changed. I mean, I like the idea of having the end having these outer rings, and I do agree that some of these suggestions do need to be morphed to fit the end style, and maybe, hopefully, the end can get a lot of new work in the future. Thanks everyone for watching, see you in the next one.